For this selection collage, you are going to utilize your layers and learn a little bit more about those and get good practice with them. You're also going to learn about your selection tools. You already had some practice using the Move tool. Next, we're going to work with rectangular and elliptical marquees and the options that go with them. We'll use the lasso, polygonal lasso, maybe even the magnetic, and we might use these. We won't use the crop tool yet, and we will use the eyedropper tool to sample color. So the first thing that you need to do is you're going to choose 10. You can maybe choose a few more than 10, but you need to choose at least 10 of your photos from your scavenger hunt. And if you did not get 10 photos, I'm going to put a folder in Poland Pickup where you can choose a couple more to round out your photos. So you don't have to go take any more, just take some from that are in that folder. So once you have your photos selected, you'll drag them, select them all and drag them into Photoshop. You can select more than one item by holding down the Command key on your keyboard and using your mouse to click on the items that you want to use. I tagged mine already with the red dot so that I knew which ones I wanted to use. So I drag them over. They're going to open up. No, the elephant was not at Spring Forest Middle School. Okay. Then I also want to start a new file. My new file is going to be US paper, letter, 8.5 inches by 11 inches. Resolution is 300 pixels per inch, RGB 8. We're going to put the background contents at white, and we're going to click OK. Now, let's say I look at this and I already know I don't want it 8.5 by 11. I want it 11 by 8.5. If I come up here to Image, Image Rotation, and I can simply do a 90-degree, and it's going to flip it on its side. So now you should have 11 width, 8.5 height. Make sure you flip it. Okay, so we are going to utilize the Arrange 2-up vertical workspace. We want the blank document to be by itself on the right because this is the one that we want to put all of our stuff into. Okay, I'm going to zoom out on it so that I can see the full page, and you can zoom out using keyboard shortcuts, Command minus and Command plus. That's zoom in and zoom out. And here I see the list of all of the images that I'm going to use. Now, I told you that we wanted to use some various things. So we first want to use our rectangular marquee. And I'm going to look through my photos here and decide which one of these is going to be best for a rectangular marquee. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I think maybe I will choose this one as a rectangular marquee. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and look at the image, and I want to select a good area. If you look up here, we have a new selection, add to the selection, subtract from the selection, and intersect. We have the ability to feather the edges. We also have the ability to do a fixed ratio or fixed size. We're going to leave that at normal. I do, however, want to feather the edges. So I'm going to type in 5 pixels, and I'm simply going to drag a little rectangle around her. And if you remember your rules of photography, remember the rule of thirds, you want the subject to be on one of those intersecting lines. So here I have the subject on one of those intersecting lines. Then I can copy. You can always go to the Edit menu and choose Copy. Here you see that the keyboard shortcut is Command-C, and if you're going to learn any keyboard shortcuts, Command-C is one of the best ones to learn because you are going to use it all the time. So copy it, and then you can come over here. Your paste is Command-V, and again, that's a keyboard shortcut that you would use a lot. So here it is. It's a large image. You can see that the edges are feathered a little bit. We will use our Edit, Free Transform, which is Command-T. We'll hold down the Shift key so that we drag it and resize it and keep it in proportion. Remember that we've got 10 photos that we're going to put on here. So I am going to resize it small, and I want to name my layer to make it easy for me to find again. Okay, now once I have that, I can actually close that image so that I can use something else. I wish I would have named my images before I started this, but I did not. All right, so now we have a picture of a dragonfly, and I think this would be a good one to use the elliptical marquee. Again, I am going to use a new selection. This time I want to feather it a little bit more than on this one, so I'm going to do 10 pixels. And if I hold down Shift, it makes a perfect circle. If I don't hold down Shift, I can drag and I can make an oval. Okay? Now, you should also know that if you don't like the selection that you make, the way to get rid of a selection is to deselect. You can come to the Select menu and choose Deselect, or again, Command-D is your keyboard shortcut. So I think I'm going to make a perfect circle on this one, and I want to make sure that I get all of that dragonfly in, but not too much more. So I'm going to Command-C, I'm going to come over here and paste on this document. Here, the 10 pixels, you can see a little bit better. I'm also going to transform this. It's under the Edit menu or Command-T, and I'm going to shrink it a little bit. I'm going to name the layer, and I'm going to move it somewhere else. And then I'll come back here and I will close that one. Now, below this we have a lasso tool, polygonal lasso tool, and a magnetic lasso tool. They work, whoops, I'm on the wrong one. They work differently. I know. They work differently, so you need to understand the difference. So I'm going to look here, and I see that I have a picture that has a few flowers in it, and they're not necessarily all together. So I want to try to find the best way to get the most flowers. And I'm thinking either over here or over here. I'm going to use the lasso tool, okay? And the lasso tool allows you to create a free form selection around whatever you want. So let's say that I wanted to do these flowers up here. I could simply make a shape and make sure that it has everything we want. And then I have to return the tool pretty much back to where I started. Okay. Now, this one also had the ability to do a new selection, add to, subtract from, or intersect. It also had the feather. Now I have the feather set at 0, so there is going to be no feather on this one. I do, however, want you to see the ability to add to the selection. So if I change that up here, that option to add to, I have something selected, but if I click and draw a little bit more, notice how it adds to it. So now I can copy and I can come over here and paste, and I have kind of like a little butterfly shape on my flowers. Again, when you resize it or transform it, make sure that you hold the Shift key down to keep it in proportion. Next, we have the Polygonal Lasso tool. And I think that I want to use the Polygonal Lasso tool on me on the kayak. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole photo. And I want to use this. Polygonal Lasso tool allows you to make a shape as well. However, it uses straight lines. So if you click and make a point, see how you're dragging it? And it wants you to click your mouse again to make another point. So I can click and make points around the shape that I want to select and kind of make sort of like a starburst until I get back to the beginning. Notice when I get my mouse back to the beginning, there is a little circle there that's showing me that I'm back to the beginning of my selection. Okay, and now I have it selected. I like the selection I've made, so I'm going to Command C, and I'm going to come over here and Command V and move that out of the way. I can go about renaming that layer. I can also resize it, holding down the Shift key, and double click to apply it. I'm going to come back and I'm going to close that photo. And I think this might be a good one, this tall tree from Worm's Eye View, to use the magnetic lasso tool. The magnetic lasso tool actually follows the shape of something when there's good contrast between the colors. And since there's good contrast here between the tree and the sky, I think this might be a good one. Okay, so notice I click here and I am simply allowing my mouse to follow along the edges, and I'm going to incorporate the leaves up here. Sometimes you may need to give it a little click to keep it going in the right direction, like when you get out here to the leaves on mine. But most of the time, it follows along pretty well. You can see it adds the anchor points. Those are the little squares, the anchor points. And you can add your own anchor points with the click of a mouse. And I think that's the end of the leaves that I'll use. Now I'll go and continue following the bark or the tree trunk, and then I'll come all the way down to the bottom and then work my way back to the beginning. And now, oops, I messed up my selection. So notice I have my history panel open. If I go back in my history panel, it went back and got that selection for me. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to paste it. And since that's kind of a big image, I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. And I am going to resize it so I can fit it on there. And then remember that I can use my layers, so I can put that tree at the bottom, which means that I can layer some stuff over top of it if I need to. Okay. Now, I've shown you